So in this video, we're going to share 7 different ways that you can make money with your vehicle, with your car in 2019. So if you've watched videos previously on this channel, there's a chance that maybe you saw the one where we discussed how expensive it really is to own and operate a vehicle. In 2018, the cost to own and operate a new car was about $8,849. So it's a lot of money, a lot more than a lot of people realize. So because of that, hopefully this video can give you some different ideas as to how you can sort of counterbalance some of those costs that are incurred with vehicles, such as depreciation and taxes and insurance and maintenance, and the list goes on how expensive cars can really be. So hopefully we can give you some ideas that are a little bit outside the box, maybe something that's a little bit out of the ordinary, something other than driving for Uber or driving for Lyft or doing Uber Eats. Those are very obvious ways to make money with your car. So let's get started with this video. But if you're new here to the channel, you want to learn more about making money or saving money or building a better financial future for yourself, then consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss more videos like this one. So let's get started here. And the first one is quite interesting, and it's by actually carpooling. So there's a couple different ways you can go about doing this, but one of the ways to do this is by using a service such as BlaBlaCar in Europe. This is available in just about every country over in Europe, or in some places in North America, you could use something called Ride. But what's interesting about these is that what you can do is essentially, let's say that you're driving from one city to another, and maybe it's a 6-hour drive, and to kind of recoup the cost of actually making this drive, you can post it to this website, and what'll happen is people who maybe want to go to the same destination on the same day will join in on the ride. They'll pay you to drive them up to that destination, and then you can make money by actually driving to those certain destinations. So it's not something that you would necessarily do just because you want to make money off of it, but it's a great way to recoup the cost of making trips that maybe you have to make anyway. Maybe you're going up to your parents' place in a different city or in a different state somewhere, and you want to recoup the cost of driving and gas and paying for wear and tear on your vehicle. Then it's an interesting idea. Like I said, BlaBlaCar is essentially everywhere in Europe, most countries over in Europe. Now, North America, especially in Canada, something called Ride. In the actual United States, especially down south in the United States, it's a little bit more difficult to find those services that will do that. Now, there are other ways to do it, like using Facebook or potentially using Craigslist. Craigslist can get a little bit sketchy sometimes, so be careful. But there are services out there that are a little bit less familiar or a little bit less common than the ones over in Europe. But those are just interesting ideas. And look, I'm not sponsored by any websites or companies in this video. I kind of wish they were sponsoring them because I'm just doing some free advertising, but they're ones that I've used in the past. So I've used BlaBlaCar, and I thought it was really interesting and worthy enough to put on this list if you're making some type of trip. So let's talk about the next one, which is by hauling stuff for people. So I kind of realized this when I was in high school, when I had a pickup truck, and I ended up hauling things for friends a number of times. So if they wanted to buy a large piece of furniture, or they had to move their bed or their mattress from one apartment to the next, and they didn't have a vehicle, maybe they had a sedan, maybe they had a motorcycle, but they weren't actually able to move those things because they had a small car or no car whatsoever, so they need somebody with a larger vehicle. So if you have a truck, if you have a van, an SUV, those could be really interesting ways to make some money by just moving stuff for people, especially if you're living in a city like New York or LA or Washington, D.C. or Philadelphia, where a lot of people just don't have cars, but they need to move apartments or move houses, and they need somebody to help them move that stuff, that furniture, and those various other appliances. So it could be something that you could be interested in. If you have a larger sized vehicle, you could do that. Now, let's talk about the next one here, which is a little bit less active, a little bit more passive, that you can do to still make a decent amount of money and help pay for those car payments or that insurance or whatever other costs you might have with your vehicle. And that's by using a service called Turo or another service called GetAround. So both of these services are actually pretty interesting. So I have a couple of friends who rent their cars out on this website called Turo. Now, your car is fully insured through them. So what can happen is essentially you become the enterprise or the Hertz or the rent-a-car service where you're renting out your car. So people will come to your place, or you will meet them, for example, at the airport, drop off your car, and they will use your car. And like I said, you are fully insured through this. So if they drive it off a cliff and there goes your $60,000 Corvette, then you will be able to get that money back, and hopefully that person's all right if they drove off a cliff. But it's something that I just think is really interesting. And like I said, I have friends who do this who, if you have, say, 2 vehicles and you're just not using one of the vehicles very often, you could throw it up on that website called Turo, and get some money and help pay for that car payment at the very least to be able to sustain it. So just very interesting and something that I think is worthy enough to put on this list. Now the next one is very important. It's not necessarily something that's going to be a big cash cow or making you a lot of money, but it is by driving safe. So I want you to hear me out here, because most insurance companies will actually kind of give you some type of incentive to drive safer and to drive smarter. So to give you an example here, Allstate in a lot of states will actually cut you a check every 6 months for driving safe and not having any accidents. Now this check might be about $50 depending on where you live and what type of deal you have with them, but people can get checks from Allstate for driving safe. It's not that much money, and they're probably still making money off of you, but it is still something to incentivize you to drive safer. And on top of this, if you have insurance through something like State Farm, they actually have an app called Drive Safe and Save, and this app is really interesting. I think people should use it, but essentially what they will do is with this app, they can track how fast you're accelerating, how fast you're taking turns, how your braking patterns are, and how fast you're going to kind of decide whether or not you're being a safe driver, a smart driver, or maybe a dangerous driver. So it actually incentivizes people to drive safer, drive smarter, which honestly is better for you. It's going to increase your chances of making it out alive of vehicles because car accidents are something that are very dangerous, and a lot of people lose their lives to car accidents every year. So not only are you going to save money through insurance by actually getting discounts for being a safe driver, but you can also potentially save your life. So it's definitely something that we had to throw on this list. And the next one is by actually renting out an RV or a camper or a van through something called RVshare.com. And as I mentioned before, I'm not sponsored by any companies on this list, but I just find some of them to be so interesting, and that is RV Share. So if you have an RV or some type of vehicle that is larger or a camper, you can make over $10,000 per year by renting it out to people who just don't have an RV, but they want to go camping. Maybe they want to go on a road trip, and there's a chance that maybe you're not using your RV nearly as much as what you thought you would be doing. A lot of people have RVs that just sit in their driveway and they don't use them because they just don't have the vacation time to actually use them. So you can make money off of this and literally make over $10,000 per year by renting out an RV that you might have that's just sitting there anyway. So you might as well take advantage of it and make some cash. Now I understand a lot of people don't have an RV, but if you ever do in your life, just consider doing this. And you might see kind of a similar trend along here. We talked about Turo, renting out your car. We talked about renting out your RV, but you might see that similar trend where essentially we're kind of entering this, what we call the sharing economy, where there's so many things that you can share that you can rent out. For example, Airbnb, you can share a room in your apartment or in your house to make money. You can rent out your kayaks, or you can rent out your boats, or you can rent out your surfboards. So really anything that is worth some money, something that is valuable, you can rent it out. So not just cars, but that's a tip for anything. Just find something that you have in your possession that's worth a decent amount of money, and then kind of just do a little Google search or think about how you can actually rent this out to people and share it with people in the sharing economy that we live in. It's very interesting. Okay, let's talk about the last two here, and we'll kind of bundle these two together. But look, there's a lot of services that people need for when they are needing groceries or needing packages. So you could actually become something of an Amazon driver. So Amazon Flex, definitely something that is still up and coming. A lot of people are taking advantage of this, but you're essentially becoming your own little FedEx or UPS driver or mail delivery service by doing Amazon Flex. See, a lot of people who are buying stuff on Amazon, including myself, want these items a lot faster. They don't want to have to wait a couple days. They want an instant delivery that day or next day delivery. And so Amazon, trying to keep up with this, they have introduced something called Amazon Flex, which you essentially become a driver for this. You can drive your own car around and make money on your own time, which is really the best part about this. You can do this after work or on the weekends to make some extra cash, put it in your pocket, and it's definitely something that's going to continue to grow in the future. Now, you're probably not going to get rich off of it. You're probably not going to become a millionaire off of it, but just using it to offset the cost of your vehicle can be something that I think people should be taking advantage of, especially if you find yourself in a tough financial position at the moment. Maybe you're struggling to make those car payments. Maybe you're struggling to make those credit card payments. Then just doing something like this a couple hours per week can really help solve a lot of those problems. And the last one here, we'll just mention it briefly, but it's by doing something like Instacart, where you're actually shopping for people at grocery stores and then delivering that food, and sometimes even putting it in the refrigerator, depending on the service that you're using. But it's kind of like Amazon Flex or some of these other ones that you could think about, like Postmates, DoorDash, GoPuff. There's a whole list of different types of services that you can use to help deliver things to people, and people are just going to continue to use these more and more as the demand grows for them. So there's so many ways to make money with your car. There really are, to help offset the cost of that vehicle. And hopefully you can find some value in this video. If you're still watching, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. Really do appreciate it. And I'll see everybody in the next video. Just leave some comments down below or some questions if you have them, and I'll try to do my best to respond to everyone. I think I do respond to just about every comment.